Hi, I'm Marcy Brockman, and this is Permission to Heal. I have the pleasure of chatting with Forrest Lang today. He has written an amazing book called Angel Blue, and after reading it, I knew I had to have him on the podcast. Um, Forrest was born on May 24th, 1977, on Long Island in New York. After moving to Oxnard, California, he was raised by his biological mother until he was placed in foster care until at the age of 12, after he just kept running away from home. Forrest joined the Navy as a hospital corpsman at the age of 18. He served honorably for 5 years during peacetime, after which he attended community college in San Diego studying illustration. In 2003, he reenlisted and was deployed to Iraq, serving as a line corpsman with the 1st Marine Division. After one combat deployment, Forrest returned to San Diego, where he had been a tattoo artist for the last 16 years. In 2015, Forrest founded Sparta 12 Step, a meditation based suicide prevention group for veterans. Forrest is the author of Angel Blue, a memoir about recovery from severe mental, spiritual, and emotional trauma. He currently resides in La Jolla, California, with his fiancée Kristen, and his daughter Grace. Angel Blue is a story of recovery to serve as inspiration for those who have suffered from severe physical, sexual, emotional abuse and trauma with a capital T. It is possible to live a great life full of purpose and connection, to have success and love in your and success in your career regardless of where you came from. And I think that what Forrest wants everyone to know, if I may summarize, is that we are all given the tools that we need, all of the strength and all of the tools that we need to heal and to become our best selves are all already inside of us. And we need encouragement and inspiration and strength in order to do a deep dive inside, or many, many deep dives inside, to get in touch with those dark spots, those dark places, and begin to heal ourselves, to do inner child rescue, to convert ourselves from victims into victors, to quote Forrest. And you're just going to love this conversation. So welcome, Permission to Heal. I'm so very glad you're here. All right, we're going. We're going. All right, that's excellent. Okay. Welcome to Permission to Heal. I am Marcy Brockman. I'm thrilled that you're here. And today, after a long-awaited time, we have Forrest Lang. Forrest, welcome. I'm so pleased that you're here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I got your book months and months ago. It sucked me in and wouldn't let me go. And I could not read it fast enough. And then we had scheduling issues between then and now, and we finally were able to get it together. I'm excited.
Me too. I admire you as a writer and a podcaster and a person and a mother, and
Thank you.
um, it's good to be here. Thank you
I
for having.
My pleasure. I feel the same way about you. Like, this is the first conversation we've ever had sort of face to face. And yet I feel like we're already friends because I read your book, and we're friends on Instagram and have been commenting on each other's feeds and posts for quite a few months now. So it's the internet is the strangest thing, isn't it?
It is. It's a very powerful tool and has a lot of potential for positive if we use it the right way.
Exactly. Exactly. So we always start with the 6 quick questions. You ready for the 6 quicks? Six quick. It's like
Fix.
it's like a tongue twister, you know.
Irish wristwatch. I'm ready.
There you go. There you go. All right. What 6 words would you use to describe yourself?
I'm at a loss. Um,
Okay.
um, true,
True.
ordinary, uh,
Ordinary.
with integrity. I don't know how to say that.
Well, you
You
can
know,
just say integrity. That's fine.
uh, I'm a warrior. I'm an artist. I'm a dad. How many's that?
That's enough.
Cool.
That works. What's your favorite way to spend a day?
with with Kristen and Grace together. It's not very often that we get to do that. Spend an entire day together, and to me, that's the best when the three of us can do something together.
Would it matter what you did or just
No,
anything?
just anything.
It's nice. I like the simplicity of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that my son has flown the coop and is in Vermont most of the time, and my stepdaughter's in Florida, we don't see her most of the time. I haven't seen her in, what, 14 months now. My stepson lives about 30 miles east of us, the only ones who's home right now because of COVID school, college online, is my youngest, my daughter. And to have all four kids under the same roof, it hasn't happened in a long time. I don't know when it will happen again, truth be told. So
It will.
I
It
get it.
will.
At some point. Let's try
Really?
number 3.
Okay.
Maybe a little tough, but what's your favorite childhood memory? Maybe that's not the right question to ask you
That's
particularly.
okay. No, there were good. Um, I ran away from a group home in Fillmore. I was supposed to go to a new school that day, and I didn't like the group home. And I ran and ran and ran and got away. And I got to a shopping mall, and I was 13 years old, and I had never wanted a cigarette so bad in my life. And I bummed a cigarette, and I was free all by myself in the shopping mall. That's maybe my favorite memory of childhood.
Okay, that's fair. That first taste of freedom, especially when it's denied you, is pretty palpable.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try number 4. What is your favorite meal?
Steak and potatoes.
Finally, a steak lover. Yay!
You know, I like regular normal things.
That's awesome.
I enjoy Red Lobster too. My kid thinks it's trashy, but when I walk into Red Lobster, they still ask me if it's a special occasion. So
Oh yeah. when yeah, my husband's mom's favorite restaurant is Red Lobster. So when we were regularly going out to see her, it was always a Red Lobster she wanted to go. It's all right. It works. Number 5. What is one piece of advice you would like to give your younger self?
just to hang on, that it's going to be all right, and you're going to get through this.
It's a good
That
one.
it's
Hang on, you'll get through. I had an image of myself a while ago. I was like meditating on the idea of telling that younger version of me that she could trust herself, that what she was experiencing on the inside really was the truth and what was going on around her wasn't. And if she just held on long enough and really believed that it would be okay. And very similar. And I had this image in my imagination of me as a 52-year-old hugging, let's say, the 8-year-old version of me and making her feel better. And it was just so like uh, happenstance. I don't know what the right word is. It's not like I went into the meditation thinking about it that way, but it just sort of organically happened. It was sort of, I don't know. It's very interesting how that happened. I don't know.
Marcy, same here. And over time, it developed for me. And I built a whole meditation around that where a Black Hawk helicopter lands outside with soldiers on board. I climb on, we take off, go through a vortex, land wherever the horrific thing is happening in my life. The soldiers kick down the door. We either detain or kill whoever is hurting me. And I grab little Forrest, bring him to the helicopter. We take off, fly through another vortex, land in a clearing. I go into a secret tunnel, down into another clearing where there's a gigantic treehouse with everything that little Forrest ever needed. And
Oh,
I there, and there's a lion that guards the door. And I sit and I visualize each thing as clearly as I possibly can until I'm back in my body. And that inner child rescue is so paramount and so important. You know,
wow.
for somebody to rescue me my whole life. I'm 43. I don't need anybody to rescue me anymore. But when some part of me still
Yeah.
wants it ever came, I go and do it myself. And I teach other people how to do that as I go. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to do that stuff and feel complete. Feel like I have a childhood, even though it's in a buried treehouse in my imagination, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. What did you call it? Childhood rescue?
Inner child rescue.
Inner child rescue. That's awesome. So I was actually doing a therapeutic thing without realizing it. That seems to happen to me. I do these things by accident.
Well, I really think that most of what we need to know is already inside of
Mm-hmm.
us. We need maybe some help from professionals to access these things sometimes, but human beings we're pretty resilient and we are
Yeah,
born with information, you know, and we have the ability to to self-heal in many different ways.
I
Um,
agree. I agree. All right, let's try number six and then we'll get to the meat of this. What is one thing you would most like to change about the world?
are we talking like I'm Superman and I can change anything I want?
Sure, why not?
No kids will get hurt anymore.
Well, that's good. That's good. I was just listening to another podcast. Um, was actually Brene Brown's Unlocking Us on my way home from school today, and there was a startling statistic about child abuse and child trauma. But the doctor, I don't remember his name, that she was interviewing with Oprah. Actually, Oprah and this doctor had wrote a book about the uh, effect of childhood trauma
Mm-hmm.
on adults and on society and everything. I only listened to the first 20 minutes of the interview, so I don't really know the rest of it. But they were saying that like the first 6 months, really, even 4 months of an infant's life already is starting to make blueprints and templates of the effect of trauma on a nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't get resolved and it just keeps building and building and building and building throughout childhood, that creates the uncertainty, the I wish I knew the technical terms. I wrote them down but don't have them with me.
I think it's better terms, Marcy. I think it's better in just plain English. You're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, they call it event, experience, and effects. The pattern of activating your stress system from the beginning in infancy, and then if it continually gets negatively activated and reinforces all these negative behaviors or these negative reactions, that as an older child, as a teenager, and then as an adult, you have less of an ability to be resilient and bounce back from small traumas that might not affect other people who had a more predictable non-central nervous system screwing with childhood. You know, that's a terrible way of explaining it, but
We, we can I
makes
allowed to cuss,
sense.
Marcy?
What?
Am I allowed to cuss on this show?
Yeah, sure.
We we can fuck them up very easily,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when we're kids and bad things happen, we're victims at that point, right?
Yeah, you can't
But
do anything about it. You don't know better and you're stuck.
yeah, but the moment we step out on our own, right? For me, I was 16 and a half and I walked out of that foster home for the last time ever.
Mm-hmm.
and I took charge and control of my life, right?
Right.
I was the in the script now, although my subconscious had been formed to work against me in my life.
Right.
We have the power to become victors and no longer victims when we start to rewrite that programming and change what we do, right? So um,
I like that. Victors versus victims.
absolutely. And let's say let's use like the human body as an example of the psyche, right? Let's
Mm.
use it for my low back is injured, right?
Mm.
The injury probably won't recover, right? It'll probably always be injured in that area. But if I don't exercise the muscle around it and build strength around it, the injury gets worse.
Right.
And eventually I can get to a place where I am in better shape than I was before that injury started to hurt me. Now, some people may misinterpret that as that injury made me strong. No, absolutely, it did not. That injury
Wait.
caused weakness.
We're
Am
sort
I
of
there?
cutting out. I don't know
How
what's
about
going
now?
on. It seems a little better. Let me go into settings for a second. Hold your thought. I don't know what it's doing. Advanced.
Did I try turning my Wi-Fi off?
Maybe.
Give it a shot. Now I can't see you at all. I should probably put it back on.
There's a thing that I have. Here's a setting. I can't find it all of a sudden. Where it allows me to. It records our audio on two separate tracks
Gotcha.
so that when I talk or you talk, it doesn't cut the other one out. And I can't figure out where in the hell it is.
Yeah, the last time, I mean, I was really bummed when I listened to the last podcast that came out, but other people liked it and didn't say much about the audio being messed up. But I was like so irritated listening to it. I'm like, ugh.
Host video, host audio. Blah, 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 blah. Watermark. It's got to be here somewhere. I thought it was already set, but I just want to make sure that it didn't. In meeting, save.
Do you want to try pausing and playing it
Video.
back and seeing if it sounds okay?
Sure. Oh my God, they have so many options. In meeting. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to be careful about your time too. I don't want to
I'm
take up
good.
too much of it.
I am good.
Very peculiar.
A screenwriter called me and asked me
Really?
for the manuscript. He sold a screenplay to Netflix, and his agent asked him for like 3 or 4 more screenplays. So he's writing Angel Blue into one.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Kind of scary, you know? Like, I don't know.
I think that's great. It could totally be a screenplay. And it's like unpredictable, and just when you think it's getting just as bad as it could possibly be, it gets worse, and then it's better at the end. And I think it's great.
Thank you.
Multiple audio notifications. That's not it. I don't know. Automatic. Wait, what's this? This is recording. That's not helpful. That's not helpful.
Pretty soon we'll just be able to do these in person. It'll be great.
Well, except we're on opposite sides of the country, so.
I would do this.
What?
I would have flown out there to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's just keep going. So far, it's been better since I've been mushing around, so.
Okay. Well, we were talking about recovery, right?
Right.
And about thought resilience. And I was using, I will use the human body as a metaphor for me, my body, right?
Right. Yeah, you were talking about your back.
Yeah, my back was injured when I was a kid, as a result of physical abuse, right? And so as it sits right now, the way medical technology is right now, that injury will always be there unless I choose surgery, which is scary because I've seen people have bad outcomes. So I choose to exercise my body and build core strength and build more strength around that injury. And I believe that eventually I may be better off than I was, stronger than I ever was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some people would misinterpret that and say that an injury made a person strong. And I strongly disagree with that, because if injuries made people strong, if pain and trauma made people strong, we would just traumatize people. We would inflict pain on them to make them stronger, right?
Right.
The same is true of my spirit. There in my psyche, there are wounds in there that are lasting from maybe might never go away. But as I exercise and build my spirit and my psyche, I develop greater resilience, right?
Right.
Yeah, and those things that did not kill me did not make me stronger, but I did. I chose to do the work. And a lot of times we only see and hear on public platforms people like me and like you who have done a lot of work. We don't see the ones who OD'd in the alley on these platforms. We don't see the ones who spent life in prison. We don't, and so people can have like a misunderstanding of what the chances are, what the success rates are, and how much we need to really focus and hone in on repairing these wounds culturally. Because this is not a me problem. This is not a you problem.
No.
This is a problem. You know, darknesstolight.org is a pretty respectable organization. And by their numbers, there are 68 million people in the United States who were sexually assaulted before the age of 18.
Wow.
That is unacceptable. And not only that, if we think about what the impacts are of a trauma like that on a person, if it's not dealt with, what does that do to a culture, right?
Yeah.
What does that do to our way of living? What does that do to overall physical health? We're learning that these types of adverse reactions during youth cause a lot of physical health problems as well, right?
Absolutely. With the mind-body connection, absolutely. I internalize my anxiety as stomach issues.
Mm-hmm. So what do we do about it, right? Like we can sit here all day and cry about our childhood and say these bad things happened, which is important to start, right? It's very important we first speak about these things. I did not want to talk about that shit. You know, by the time I was 19, I was a grown man and I didn't want to talk about my childhood anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
None of us want to go back and deal with that stuff. But if we don't, the wounds just fester inside and we commit violence on ourselves, on others. And violence comes in many forms. Violence could be a word. Right. Words are, we're the only creature on the planet that can utilize the vibration in our throat to communicate in the way that we do. You know, we have a lot of work to do, And I do not think that the situation is hopeless. I have a bright outlook on the world. I believe that the curve of civilization is up and we're going to get better. We are.
Yeah, I feel the pendulum swinging towards at least more acknowledgement that these things happen, and that's the first step in the road to fixing it, figuring out that, yeah, these things happen, and each of these events in isolation aren't isolated. So talking about it starts the healing process and begins empathy. And that's where it all starts.
And for a guy like me, it starts with removing drugs and alcohol. That's where the real recovery begins.
Right. Well, I mean, but it all feeds into it. I would imagine you turned to the drugs and alcohol because of the things from your childhood you were trying to mask and deal with.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, if we can reduce that 68 million children who are being assaulted, we can reduce alcoholism and other addiction at the same time,
I
and
believe.
reduce the number of people in the prison system and so on.
And yeah.
Right. So let's take a step back and let's talk about Angel Blue. I think when you start talking about the book, we'll get the audience will get a clearer picture of where you were that led you to the place where you are now. So tell us about your wonderful book, Angel Blue.
Um, I knew I wanted to write a book for a long time, but I wanted to wait until I had something relevant to say, right? I wanted to wait until I felt like I was in a good enough position that I made it
Mm-hmm.
and to share. And I got to that place and I decided to sit down and write my story. And I started it with a very horrible accident, a horrific accident, because it was the hardest part to write. On April 17th of 2000, I accidentally shot and killed my dear friend. And it was a really awful, horrible experience. And it took me a long time to work through that and find forgiveness. And that's what I thought that book was going to be about. I thought it was going to be about that and the war. And after I wrote the first part that was, I believe, the most painful, I started at the beginning, and the original document said I was born May 24th, 1970. So I changed that, like, who gives a shit.
Well, I was born May 27th of 1968, so we're only a few days apart, but 9 years.
So I unsuppressed all the rest of the childhood. I was raped from 4 to 16 by two different people. I'm an alumni of the California foster care system. I was homeless at 16. I got in the military. I struggled with substance abuse, got sober. My friend died right after I got out of the military. I was homeless again. I went back in. I wanted to die in combat in Iraq. I wanted to regain my honor and be remembered as Forrest Lang, the guy who died as a hospital corpsman, saving a Marine's life, rather than Forrest Lang, the guy who committed suicide, or the guy who accidentally killed his best friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I came home and I built this wonderful life. I had a lot of work and lessons to learn. I still do, but I've gotten to a place in life where I can firmly say that I am happy. I'm a happy person. I feel I am successful. I have purpose. And my intention is to inspire others who have had a rough go, or maybe don't believe that they can become something because A, B, or C happened to them. Inspire them into stepping into their life, and not in like a life coaching way or a therapeutic way, just in a way of sharing.
Yeah.
Right. There aren't enough voices of people who have recovered from um, horrible things.
Mm-hmm.
All the voices that we can get, because I may be able to talk to someone, Marcy, and they may be able to respond and trust me and hear me. And I might try to talk to someone else and they might need you, or they wouldn't be
Right.
able to hear me. So we need these voices to collectively lift us up. And my hope and intention is to continue to add my voice to that conversation and just share what worked for me. I feel that I'm all I'm qualified to do. I don't want to tell anybody what to do, but if if I trip and fall over a certain thing and I see someone else trip and fall the same way, I go, hey, well, I stepped this direction and this worked, and maybe it'll work for you, right?
Right. I mean, that's all any of us can do. We're not, we don't have PhDs in psychology. You know, we're not educators in that. We're not clinicians, but we're survivors. We're people who have experienced a set of things, traumatic experiences, whatever, and have figured out behaviors, habits, accidentally or on purpose, that helped us along the way. And why not share that with others?
Absolutely. I want some other foster kid who had just been through the fucking ringer.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to have the experience of maybe not the same place, but for me this morning, I stood in my living room in La Jolla, California, and put on nice music with my beautiful little dog sitting there staring at me, and I did qigong. Right,
Nice.
I'm practicing this thing, this qigong that's like a meditation, like slow movement martial art thing, and I want them to feel
Sure.
what
It's
I
part
know,
of traditional Chinese medicine, healing.
but
Yeah.
feeling that, feeling just the essence of being, and being safe and secure, and having a general feeling of happiness about life.
Mm-hmm. Especially when they're in a position of powerlessness and hopelessness, and they just feel like it's over before it's begun. You know, they don't have to be that way. The same way we were talking about the reaching back to our younger selves and healing our childhood inner child thing. You know, you can reach out and help somebody else who may be in that position now and make them feel a little less bleak.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And give them hope. I mean, we want to inspire hope, right? Because
Yeah,
I, I never copied anybody exactly what they did. I copied some things, but there were people who I saw that just gave me hope. And I was like, well, if they did it, I can do it too. You know,
exactly. Exactly. So we talked about, well, I don't know how to frame the question. It's like so much in my head. There's so much in my head. So you had a very traumatic childhood from the very, very beginning. Your biological parents were
unusual.
unusually consistently abusive. And you were pulled out of that home because of what they were doing and what your older brother was doing and put into the foster care system.
I got pulled out of that home because I kept running away,
Right.
and when the caseworker started to investigate and ask me questions, I didn't tell them what my brother was doing. I was too afraid to tell anybody that. But I did tell them about the beatings and the religious abuse and the strangeness, right? The strange things. And they decided that I didn't have to live there anymore. And unfortunately, as I entered into the foster system, I got groomed by a pedophile who became a foster parent to take care of me. And that lasted until I was 16 when she tried to take my life. And I lived on my own from 16 on.
Now, did her daughters know what was going on?
No, the whole family was in denial. It's very easy to look the other way when something like that is happening. And some people are able to wield mental power over others.
Yeah.
And Gilda was very good at doing that. She was a very. Did you ever see the movie with Stephen King where the Stephen King movie where the writer crashes his car
Yes,
and
yes, yes. With Kathy Bates.
yeah, that's what she was like. She even looked like that. Um, just very controlling and very good at controlling.
Wow. It's not how I
That
pictured her.
that scared the living shit out of me. I can't watch that movie because it reminds
No.
me of the situation that I felt I was in at the time.
Yeah. I don't have your experience and I can't watch that movie either. I have a thing about being stuck someplace without the power to get out. And
Hmm.
it's not claustrophobic. It's powerlessness. It's lack of safety, you
Me
know,
too.
and so yeah, I can't watch stuff like that. Life is scary enough. Who needs a horror film, you know? Like
I like horror movies. Just that one happened to really terrify me on a fundamental, deep level, you know?
yeah, no, I can't. I can't. I'm too empathetic, and my husband calls me Snow White about certain things, you know. I just
Well, I've always liked Stephen King books. I taught myself how to read reading Stephen King books. And
he's a phenomenal writer, that I know.
he is, and the good guys typically win. So I like that about his stories.
Okay. So tell me about Dave Casey. I was sort of fascinated by this figure in your life.
So he used to buy pot from my foster mom. And when Child Protective Services and the police were looking for me when I was running away and going to that home, Jill stashed me with Dave Casey and just told Dave, hey, this kid's in a bad situation. I'm trying to help him. I need you to look out for him. And Dave was a great guy. He was really funny. He liked to smoke pot and drink Heinekens. And he had a dog named Ben. And Ben was named so because he had gotten parvo when he was a puppy. So he's
Okay.
named after Dollar Bill Benjamin Franklin. And he was just really nice. He was the first adult male in my life that was ever nice to me. Called me champ and, hey, you will come to work with me, play this computer game. We'll go watch HBO at night. He was just nice. And
Did
and
you
I
trust that, or do you think there was something up with it?
I trusted him. I I had never experienced that. And I was just so happy to have somebody be nice to me. Even the social workers were horrible
Yeah.
to me. So mean. And I just bonded right to him. And we talk about, resilience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Dave died, he died of an aneurysm. I was a freshman in high school and I was devastated for like 6 months. I couldn't, I was so devastated. And last year, my daughter's grandmother died, and my daughter was very close to her grandmother. And I was so terrified to tell her, it was so hard for me to tell her. And I remembered my first experience with death. And I said, oh my God, I hope she's not devastated for 6 months and fail out of school and stops eating and all these things. And she bounced back. She was sad, but she did so good. And by the time a month had gone by, she was functioning at a regular level. And oh my gosh, because she didn't get abused and she didn't get
Right.
hurt, she has resilience.
Right. She has parents who love her, who she can trust, and a home and safety, and her she's developing typically, normally. So she has the resilience and the flexibility and the emotional support to deal with that. It's not yet another deficit. It's just a little dip in a life that's generally good.
Yeah. And back to Dave, you know, I heard somebody say or write, because I spent so much time looking at and reading personal growth type stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
like the kind of pictures you see on the wall at Starbucks where it says you are enough. And I end up
Right.
in a lot of stuff now, right? Which I never was before. And it was something like responds to basic human kindness with, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Like, oh, I'm not worthy, just basic human kindness, right? And so Dave showed me basic human kindness, and it meant the world to me. And that means the world to a lot of people if we just practice, especially people who have had cruelty inflicted upon them.
Yeah, and it doesn't really even have to be the level of cruelty that you experienced
Mm-hmm.
to notice somebody who treats you with decent human kindness. Like I know that I put up with very bad behavior from my first college boyfriend. He was a total dick. He
Mm-hmm.
was a narcissistic, crazy person, and he treated me like garbage. But And I knew that. And I knew he was cheating on me and all these other things. But I loved his parents. They
Mm.
were exactly the kind of parents that I had wished that I had. They had this really cozy house, and there was always something cooking on the stove, and his parents were just effusively warm and emotionally generous. And I knew that when I broke up with him, I was going to lose that.
Mhm.
And during school vacations, when I didn't feel like going home to either my parents' houses because they weren't really safe, I emotionally safe, I went to his parents' house and felt cocooned in love. I didn't want to give that up until I sort of had to. And that was the end of that. But
Understand.
yeah, I get it. There's a wide range of all of this. And I think sometimes people they they do that competitive catastrophe game, like, well, look how bad so and so has it. I don't have it that bad, so I should really shut up. Like, well, what do I have to complain about? But there really is significant stuff going on there that you have to
That's
overcome and deal with and so on. The
my,
competitive catastrophe thing I think is ridiculous.
it's not helpful. It's not helpful to um even, people still say that, well, I heard your story, so now I just not even sad about what's going on with me. That's not even helpful to me. That kind of sucks. But
Right.
it's irrelevant. Our pain scale is measured on a scale of 0 to 10, right? So although for you, Marcy, your 10 pain, I might die if I felt that pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because nowhere near the worst pain I've ever felt. But my 10 is my 10. And that's how we treat people for pain. We say it compared to the worst pain you ever felt,
That's true.
the scale of 0 to 10. So the only person I can ever compare myself to is myself, right? How do I feel today versus how I felt yesterday, a year before, 5 years before, 10 years before? And I will tell you with 100% certainty that there is zero that you could give me. There is nothing you could offer me as a reward to go back to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or
No,
20. Nothing on this earth that
I
you could get.
agree.
I'm so grateful to be here where I am.
So how did you get there? So you were on your own, you were in the military, you did your tour in Iraq, you had problems with alcohol and drugs, and then what?
I wish there was a simple, easy answer, but life isn't that way. I got sober. I started working and doing that recovery work that people who get sober do.
You did
I,
AA?
yeah, yeah, and I started to meditate, and I got a therapist. I started going to therapy. I self-explored, discovered myself. After Thomas died, I was pretty frozen for a while, and I was lucky enough to have good people around me and more therapy. And the thing that fundamentally changed me was the war in Iraq, because I always felt like a walking ball of shame up until that war. And as I served, and as I was seen by my brothers that were there, and I saw them, and culturally, the United States welcomed us home and held us like heroes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They treated us what was as if we were honorable, as if we were heroic, right?
Because you
And
were.
that I didn't go there initially into the military out of a sense of patriotic duty. I did it for selfish reasons, right? Like I
Right.
wanted to have a college education, and I wanted to get out of the ghetto, and I wanted to learn a trade and all these things. And when I went to the war, it was also for selfish reasons. I wanted to die in combat so I could be remembered as a person with honor. So to me, that's debatable, but we definitely were treated that way. And I was treated that way. And I started to hold my head up a little higher when I got out. And I thought maybe, I'm worthy of doing this work, and I'm worthy of healing and forgiving myself. And I started to seek that. meditation, ayahuasca, um, initiation, connection,
Hmm.
constant leaning forward and purpose, being inspired by others and searching purpose. What does purpose mean? Why am I here on the planet?
See, and
What,
you're going through all of these things rather quickly, but I know as somebody who's done some of what you're talking about that this shit's hard. There's
I just
nothing easy about this. That's painful to turn the mirror on yourself and actually look in all those dark, scary corners. So,
absolutely, absolutely. And we don't start off, you know, I think I'm pretty decent at doing this stuff now. I've been doing it for 20 years, right? The recovery stuff. So
right.
when I decide, I like to do something once a year, some kind of personal development or PTSD rehab or whatever it is, right? And I'm pretty good at just diving in. But, if I was to jump in the water with people who are triathletes and try to swim with them, there's no freaking way that I would
No.
just be do that. I would need to practice. So um, it's baby steps and one thing at a time, and I've done a lot. So I sum it up pretty quickly, and I hope I don't sound trite or like any of that was easy. Each of those things that I said is a lifetime. Meditation is a lifetime to
Right.
learn to just get the nuts to do it first of all, and then learn how to be still. It was so hard for me. After Thomas died, I used to scream. If there wasn't like if I sat still, I would have a flashback and start screaming. It took a while to be able to do that.
Right. And meditation doesn't have to necessarily be, I talk about this a lot on the show, doesn't have to necessarily be sitting quiet with yourself and not doing anything else and just focusing on your breath. And yes, for a long time that's what I thought it was only. But
Mm-hmm.
there are all sorts of other meditative activities that we
Fine.
can do that bring us in the moment. The idea is mindfulness and
Mm-hmm.
cutting out the past and cutting out the future, cutting out 5 minutes from now and 5 minutes ago. We're just in right now. And what does right now feel like? And how do I feel in right now? And I know I do it through doing other things that are sensory for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is sometimes easier than just sitting quietly or even doing a quiet guided meditation. It's just my noisy brain. It just helps me. But there are plenty of people that do the quiet, focusing on the breath thing.
It seems like 20 minutes of holding the human body physically still is like the sweet spot, right? And
Mm,
it's not easy to do. It's not easy to practice. Nobody likes doing that. Nobody's mind is ever quiet. Our minds all go. So a component of mindfulness for me is holding my body physically still, and it's very beneficial to me. Although it's very difficult, right?
mhm.
Like I don't want to do that. There's a lot of things I don't want to do that are really good for me and helpful.
Right.
There's still that little defiant child, like I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm not taking my vitamins, no matter what you say.
my daughter, I don't want to watch the never ending story. And then it turns out to be her favorite movie.
I forgot about that film. I haven't seen that in a
Oh,
very long time.
yeah. She really didn't want to watch it the first time. And then we had to watch it every night for years.
My stepsisters were like that with The Little Mermaid. Ay, vey. Kids like the repetition.
They do. It's
It's
familiar.
safe.
I like it too. There's movies and things that I watch and books I read that are familiar, they're comfort. And
Yeah.
that's all right.
So I was having a conversation with my husband last week, I guess. He is what he calls a sober alcoholic. He's been clean for 13 years, sober for 13 years. And because I was talking about the word recovery with him, people in recovery. And he didn't call me out on it, but he said that he hates that word recovery. It's just used too much and too loosely. And in his opinion, and he'll be listening to this, so I don't know if I'm going to get this 100% right, but in his opinion, once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. You're never recovered from it. You're
Mhm.
just an alcoholic who is sober. Do you agree with that statement?
I just think it depends how we look at it. I am a recovered alcoholic because I don't drink. Now, I could say that I'm no longer an alcoholic so that I could drink. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Right.
just, it's a way for people who have deep emotional wounds, right? Who, and alcohol is the solution to that wound, to that emptiness, to some people call it a God shaped hole inside of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we fill it with alcohol until it doesn't work anymore. And the buzzword doesn't matter to me. Recovery, sobriety, whatever those things are. We just get sick of hearing words sometimes.
Yeah.
We get sick of repetition of words. Like I'm tired of a lot of words right now. I'm tired of a lot of phrases. I mean, we got to figure out other ways to say things that aren't played out and burn out. But
Tired
that's
of
just,
COVID.
yeah, that's who we are as humans. You know,
So you have a group, or you work with veterans who
I
were.
volunteer. So
Yeah, you finished the sentence better than I do. Go ahead.
me and a group of guys started a 12-step group for trauma for veterans and first responders called Spartan, Suicide Prevention and Resilience Training Anonymous, right? And we just modeled it after the other 12-step programs because they work
Mm-hmm.
and relatively applicable to everything else. And we meet once a week and we do a meditation. We focus on solution. We don't do war stories there because we don't have a therapist in the room to help everybody process it. So we talk about something like integrity, or something like forgiveness, or something like work ethic, or something like an emotion, right? Instead of going explicitly back into stories of trauma that re-trigger everybody. We're there to heal. We're there to get better. It doesn't mean that we disregard and ignore the past, but we talk about what we're doing about it. That's the culture of that meeting.
Makes
And it's,
sense.
for me, very helpful. And, uh, I started that meeting 5 years ago, me and one or two other guys in my friend's living room. And now we have regularly maybe 6 to 12 men and women that show up once a
Nice.
week. Other people have tried to start it in other parts of the country, but I don't know if any of them were successful in continuing. It's not easy to start a group like that. It takes a person to sit, you know, to be willing to be there by themselves.
Yeah, and you have to be consistent and get the
Mm-hmm.
word out and so on. And have it be an actual safe place.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Absolutely.
that it's just behavioral and healing, and it's not reliving, ripping band-aids off, you know?
No, we're not qualified to do that, or it's just not the right place.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you I don't know.
My favorite color is blue. I like horses and I love the beach.
I'm sorry. I've been up since 5 a.m. and my brain
No,
is
you're
like
doing
flipping
great. I'm
out right now.
messing with you, Marcy.
It's funny. Um Okay, so here's something I want to know. How did you get into being a tattoo artist?
I always loved to draw. I drew when I was a little kid. I used to make up fantasy places that I went and was a part of, be they nights or out in space or, faraway wars. I used to draw it all. And I continued to draw, and I wanted to be a commercial artist when I was a kid. I thought that was my calling in life. And life moved in different directions. And when I got to Iraq in 2004, I drew some pictures, and one of the guys really liked them. And a kind of half rumor started that I was going to start tattooing. And by the end of the day, all the guys in my unit had pitched in to buy like 4 or 5 grand worth of tattoo equipment.
Wow.
I shipped it to Iraq, and I started tattooing in Iraq in
Had
a
you
combat.
ever picked up a tattoo machine thing? No.
Never, never. And I found out later, I was married at the time, and my wife had been cheating on me, and the military had stopped my pay, and I hadn't been paid in 3 months.
Oh,
And I
good.
was really kind of going through it. And my company first sergeant decided that he would let me tattoo because he was worried that I was going to commit suicide. And he thought tattooing would keep me busy. And the unit that I was with was very special. They were reservists from East Tennessee. They were very close and very capable. And they gave a shit about me. And it felt good,
Nice.
so it'd be my career, those guys.
That's very cool. I
And
like
I was
how organically that happened like that.
I was really bad too. It took somebody 5 years to learn how to tattoo. So I did some pretty bad tattoos the first 5 years. That's how it goes.
Well, don't you learn on like animal flesh, like dead animals first?
No,
Not necessarily.
no,
Well,
no,
not
no.
you, but like other people. I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up.
I, they learn to draw first, and then they tattoo me first, and then they tattoo their friends, right? So I've successfully taught 3 tattooers um, how how to be an artist, and they are successful tattooers, which
That's a
is
lot
not
of
something
pressure. I
I
can
want.
draw, but I wouldn't want to put something on someone else's skin indelibly forever. That's a little pressure.
Okay, let me look at that from a different place, right? Do you paint?
Yes, and I have tattoos, so
You paint, right? You paint.
yeah,
You paint
those
a
are
lot.
fine.
Painted that. Okay.
Yeah,
There's a high likelihood, Marcy, that that painting will still exist after every tattoo I've ever done is gone.
yeah, but if someone doesn't like it, they don't have to stare at it every single day of their life
It's true, but it's the most temporary art form. One of the most temporary art forms.
because it's only going to last as long as that life does.
Yes.
That's interesting. I was looking at it as the most permanent because
Hmm.
it's always there. I can't escape it.
Well, with enough laser and determination, you can.
No, I love all of mine, so yeah, no. It's just
I enjoy covering tattoos. I enjoy the biggest reward tattooing for me is covering human trafficking marks for people,
wow.
eliminating them. That means so much to me to do that. That is that is my calling in life, to do that, and I will do more of it as time goes on.
Do you cover scars from surgeries and things like that too?
I can, yeah, yeah, and also scars from other things that maybe weren't so awesome. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Trauma and injuries and so on.
yeah, I love doing that.
What are your I don't know how to ask this question. Um how do you think your past has influenced the kind of dad you are?
I knew exactly what not to do,
Well, okay.
and I don't know. Um,
Did you think it made you more scared or more frightened?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I've always been, overly protective, um, and maybe I'm overly nice. I doubt it, because she is coming up to be a really wonderful young lady and successful and powerful. And I have always been kind to her. I've never yelled at her. I've never said because I said so.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I always explained to her, and I always talked to her like she was a human being. And I always gave her power and control over her environment as much as was appropriate for her. Never read her diary. She has her room in my home. I don't go in her room without permission. I mean, she is entitled. She is her own human,
Right.
right? With
Mm-hmm.
her own set of dreams and desires. So I treat her with respect, and I expect the same in return. And when she doesn't, we talk about it, right? Instead of punishing, I very rarely have ever had to punish her, you know. And sometimes she's a little rough, but I don't ever want to put her in a box or put her in her place or take her down a notch or any of that
No,
stuff.
of course.
I want her to have high expectations for life and how people treat her. And I want her to expect kindness and expect respect, demand it and command respect, you
Yeah.
know. I think if somebody, and I know if somebody's disrespectful to her, she's confused. She's like, what? And she just doesn't have time for that person anymore.
Yeah.
You know, 15 years old, and um, just I admire her,
That's
and
great.
I don't know if maybe it was better that I learned nothing, that I just chose to unlearn everything that was done to me for her, and just replaced it all with positive. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, it sounds like you're practicing really mindful and respectful parenting techniques, that make her feel safe and loved and comfortable and supported and cheered on and
Well, and not always cheered on, because sometimes she's done things that are not very nice, and we talk about that. And we talk about why we don't do those things. You
mm-hmm.
know, it doesn't be all positive, but it's
No,
not.
no, no, of course not. Of course not.
Um,
My kids got punished when they did things that were just unacceptable, but it was mostly a conversation.
yeah,
Why do we do those things, or why don't we do those things? What happens? How did that person feel? Create empathy around the situation. You
they
know.
don't have they, they don't have much empathy when they're little. You know, I don't think we fully develop all our brain capacity till we're 25, right? I mean,
Right, something like that. Yeah. Certainly for
missing
abstract reasoning and cause and effect. Absolutely. Yeah.
that's like Marines and corpsmen to be 18 and 19 on the battlefield, because they don't know they're going to die yet. You know, they still believe they're immortal.
Yeah, maybe that's not so fair.
Well, war is business. It's not fair.
No. No. So your mission is to bring Angel Blue to the world. And
Yes.
what are your hopes for your book? What do you hope people get out of it when they read it? Or maybe if the screenplay works and you get this guy to make a movie out of it, what do you hope that
I hope they
that
get
the audience gets from it?
I hope they get some inspiration. You know, I hope it inspires people to be their best, to be their best self, to believe that they can be their best self. I don't expect any book or any set of words or any tool to change the world, right? To have this, messianical, is that the right way to say that? Like,
Messianic, I think.
messianic thing. I just hope to add something good to the world, and I already am. You
Yeah.
know, there's maybe a little under 1,000 people that have read that book, and most people that have read it have responded and said that they felt better about something, or some part of it inspired them. That's all I want.
Yeah.
You know, and it's already happening, and I'm so grateful. And of course, I want more, because I'm a human. I'm like, give me more. You know,
Right. More
let's do
reviews, please.
more. And
Right.
and you know, another friend of mine said, I want this body to be used up when I die. Right? I want to use this body and this experience and this opportunity. I want to live it to the fullest,
So
and I
really,
want that too.
what?
I want that for others as
Yes.
well.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So do you have any last little bits of wisdom for our listeners?
uh, all I have is other people's wisdom that I absorbed, right? Like, and in my experience, stuff worked and stuff didn't, and every critical juncture in my life where I've been out of answers, where I haven't known what to do, where I've been seeking so hard, there's always been somebody that pointed right at my chest, and they said, everything you need is in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing that I definitely can say to you and to the world, that you already have what you need, right? We already are born with everything that we need. And may the heart be our guide, right?
Beautiful.
Follow our heart. And
Beautiful.
also follow Angel Blue Book on Instagram on my story.
I love that. I'm going to put that in the show notes. The may the heart be your guide. So I will put links to all your socials and where to buy the book and everything in the show notes, so no one will have even a moment's hesitation about how to get in touch with
The
you
book,
or it.
the book's not for sale yet.
Oh.
If anybody wants to read it, they can read it for free. They may read a PDF form of the manuscript
Hmm.
for free. I'm not selling it yet. I will not sell it until it's gone through a traditional publishing house, and I'm waiting for the right opportunity.
Oh,
So
that
I'm
I
not.
did not realize.
Yeah, yeah. It's you can't have it or you can't buy it, but you can have it. So,
What was the reasoning behind that?
I started doing that with all the drafts, and I didn't self-publish. It's the first thing I've ever written, and every rejection, every no, every barricade to publishing has benefited me and benefited the story, and it's gotten better, and I've gotten better. So um, maybe at some point I'll self-publish it and start selling them. Um, I don't know. I just don't. I've been going by the heart map this whole time, Marcy. I don't know. I don't know why. I've been just doing what my heart told me to do, and um, that's just where I feel led right now. You know,
It's beautiful.
I'm
It's
about 40
beautiful.
a hole on the book. I haven't made much off it. I haven't made anything off it. It's a labor of love. And when I'm not afraid to get paid when the time is right to publish it. Um, I will, but just now it's not the right time yet.
Okay. It's a beautiful sentiment, Forrest. Thank you so much for being here. This was a lovely conversation.
Thank you for having me, Marcy. I hope you have a great.
Thanks.
Okay.